So our next step is to transfer our design to freezer paper, and the freezer paper is what we're going to use as the pattern. We're going to iron the pieces onto fabric and then cut them out. When you're doing this, you have to make sure you use freezer paper. Freezer paper is not parchment paper and it's not wax paper. Parchment paper doesn't have a wax coating at all, and wax paper has wax on both sides, which you don't want to use on your iron. So you have to get freezer paper, which is coated on one side and matte on the other side. And I actually had a hard time finding this. A couple of grocery stores I went to didn't carry it, but Target did. So that's where I got my freezer paper. So what you want to do is take your design and just on a flat surface, tape it down to your table surface. And I'm just going to use a little bit of washi tape because the washi tape is easier to get off than Scotch tape. So that's that, and now I'm going to put my freezer paper over it and then tape down the freezer paper. If you have a light box at home, this it would be great to do this on a light box. Or if you really find that you're having a hard time seeing the lines through the paper, you could tape your design up to a window like you are going to do an embroidery transfer. Tape the design up to a window, tape your freezer paper over it, and then do your drawing on there. When I'm doing this transferring, I found that my ruler creates a little bit of a shadow that sometimes makes it hard to see my line all the way through. So the first thing I do is I just tick off all these corners or the intersections of my lines, so I have a little bit more information to go with when I'm drawing my lines onto the freezer paper. It just helps me get everything real straight. I'm just marking everywhere where I can see that the lines intersect. Okay, that's pretty much it. And now I just transfer the lines onto the freezer paper. Continue to do that until I get all the lines and then my numbers on there as well. Alright, I got all my lines and numbers and orientation marks transferred onto the freezer paper, and now my next step is to cut it out using what I have here is an X-Acto knife with a new blade, and then my straight edge ruler. You could use anything that's nice and solid. So you're just going to use your knife to cut out these pieces. Scissors really wouldn't work because you really have to have nice, sharp, precise lines. Needless to say, I didn't let my 9-year-old daughter do this part of the project. I'm going to cut all those little pieces out, and then remember, this is like the sashing that's in between my sections that represents the fold lines of the origami animal. I'm going to cut this out, but I don't need to keep it. I can just throw it away because that fabric's going to be cut out differently than all the rest of the pieces. Alright, I finished cutting out all my pieces from the freezer paper with the X-Acto knife. And I've separated them into two piles. I have all my numbers here, which are the background fabric, and then I have my letters here, which is the primary print fabric. I've ironed out my piece of fabric, and I want to put this wrong side up, and I'm going to iron these pieces on there. The really great thing about freezer paper is that it sticks pretty well onto your fabric. But then you can also lift it off really easily and it doesn't leave a residue, and you can move it around to a different place and it will re-stick. It's really just amazing to work with. Now, the way that I mentioned before that with the origami animal itself, we chose fabrics that kind of remind us of origami paper in some way. And so we didn't want all the fabric, for example, if it had stripes, we wouldn't want all the pieces to have the stripes oriented the same way, we would want them to kind of, this one may be an angle, and this one at an angle, and this one straight up and down, because the origami is supposed to be folded, and it would, you know, if it was real paper, that's how it would look. In this particular case with this, this is called this was a macaroni print from Brandon Mabley, I think. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to make a difference if I orient it one way or another. I'm going to iron this down, and I have to make sure that I have enough room around all the sides to add a 1/4 inch seam allowance after when I cut it out. So iron it down and just get all your pieces on here. And the next step is to just rough cut these out. So each shape is individually cut out. And remember to leave lots of space around them so that you can add that 1/4 inch seam allowance. The next thing I would do is I'll do my background fabric. Put a little iron there. There's a lot more pieces here, and just begin laying them out. I'll have to do this one like this. And I'll continue to do this until I've got all these down. Our next step, before I start cutting out those pieces that are the freezer paper pieces, I'm going to cut out the little strips that are going to be these, I call them either sashing pieces, but they're the pieces that represent the fold lines here. There's the hummingbird, has a lot of them, but the fish just has really 2. So I'm going to cut those out first, and I played with the width on these, and I think that the best width to do this is at 5/8 of an inch. So there's a 1/4 inch for a seam allowance on each side, and then the 1/8 of an inch for the just for the strip itself that's going to show. It's really narrow. So I just cut a strip. It doesn't, you don't have to measure it. I did some really long ones for this, and then just cut them to size as you need them. I'll just do 2 here. When we're doing this, you need to make sure you have a ruler that has 1/4 inch marks in order to do this. And what I'm doing is just taking my pieces that I just rough cut out, and I'm cutting them out with the rotary cutter, adding a 1/4 inch to every side. So I put it down, I line up that blue 1/4 inch mark with the edge of the paper, and then I cut that line with my rotary cutter. And turn it. And you have to do this with every side.